Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome. I'm Shazia joining you on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. I'm really excited to have you all join me today for a discussion on topics related to nutrition and well-being, which I hope will serve you, your family, and those that you may influence. As always then, and before I get into the topic of the day, I want to remind listeners that all information shared on the show is general in nature. I'm not giving any particular advice to anyone. It's kind of there for education and empowerment purposes. For anyone with any medical issue related to any of the topics that I mentioned today, or otherwise, please be sure to seek medical advice from your own general practitioner. Remember, they're there to help and serve you, and they're there to benefit you for whatever you may be going through in terms of your health and well-being. And remember, it's the combination of healthcare facilities that are available to you that will help you get in the best place for your health. So today I'll be talking about nutrition in line with the time of year. So we're into autumn. I think it's been a bit of a shock for me personally. I think I've been so busy this year over the spring and summer in particular, with lots of changes, some positive, others not so positive, that the summer just became part and parcel of my everyday, and I kind of just always expected it to be in the background. September, I believe, was the official autumn start period, and I think it's only just hit me when I've been walking through a local it's a sort of woodland forest area, and I could feel my feet crunching the dried leaves that had fallen. And I was questioning myself, thinking, when did these leaves actually fall? I never even noticed, how quickly autumn actually sort of crept in, and summer has slowly started to kind of disappear. Until actually we've actually got through September and into October now as well. So yeah, so for me it kind of crept in completely unknowingly. How are you feeling with the seasonal change? I guess it's probably a little odd because we've had a bit of a heat wave this weekend just gone. So I think it's a bit of a confusing one at the moment, and the environment, animals, etc. Are probably feeling a bit awkward as we are in this kind of heat wave that we're having. I know just a day before the lovely warmth, we had the heater on. I was wearing my fleece. I just wanted to curl up next to the heater with a warm, hearty soup. What about you? So that's actually the real feel for this time of year. So, things are changing despite this kind of crazy little warmth that we're having in between. So how do these changes that are happening in our environment affect us as individuals? Do they affect us? Of course they do. And it's important that we kind of take note of the changes in our environment and within our bodies to actually support our bodies with the best nutrition as the seasons change. And we see this across the globe. I mean, if you look at where food is actually grown locally in communities, you can see the change in the recipes that they will use. And I guess we don't see this as much in the UK because, we have access to, all foods all year round, because that's just the way, we live here and how we've got access to foods, being so easy and so convenient. And we'll talk a little bit about this in detail sort of as we go along. But, changes are actually experienced and are actually then manifested in the things that we actually do. And, if we don't do this, we do actually feel off balance. And, if you're going to continue to eat the same foods all year round, and I was actually quite, not victim to this, but I was actually a very good example of this before I studied nutrition. We could eat the same thing day in, day out, all year round, not paying attention to what it was that we were actually consuming as a family. It does actually affect your health. And, we see certain sort of imbalances in our health at certain times of the year, not given in all instances, but we do for certain things. And we can sometimes explain those because of the deficiencies that we have, and they tend to be sort of related to these seasonal changes. So, having that change as a plan, on your whatever it might be, whether it's you use a a food diary, or you use a notice board, whatever it is that you use for your family, that's a really good way to kind of plan for the seasons up ahead. So seasonal eating is amazing. It supports our bodies whilst we go through the seasons. I have talked about this before, but I think it's important to go over this again. So, for many of us, it's that time of year when we are called in for seasonal medication. So you might get a call from your doctor, you might get a letter, you might get a text message. My mom's just had hers. And in the same way, we need to prepare and nourish our bodies with the correct food so that that food is also our medicine, so that we're able to carry ourselves through in the best way through the seasons as they change. So, maintaining and strengthening our immune system, for example, is an essential one. And, colds and flu, the flu, for example, quite common this time of year. It's not just medicines that we need from a sort of a conventional standpoint. You also need to look at what you're putting into your body, because that's going to influence or sort of impact upon how likely our bodies get through the seasons, in the best way that they can. So, these are changes that we see, and our bodies will tell us about these changes. So what I'm talking about today isn't medical advice, as I mentioned before. It's about giving you the information that I've learned in my role as a nutritional therapist, and in my learning, in my reading, in my research, whatever it may be, and so that you can take it on board and do your own research. Look at what your body's telling you. Are you feeling a bit groggy now? Are you getting any cravings? Are you finding that you're getting tired more easily? What is it that you're feeling at this time of year? And you'll find that there will be a pattern. I know when I sit down and think about it, I feel a certain way when the weather starts to change. And these are actually, important things to think about. They're not sort of things that are just kind of theoretical. They are actually, they actually do manifest themselves. So it's good to kind of reflect on yourself, see how you're feeling, tap into that kind of information that's actually unique to you and your family as well, and see what you can do to encourage better practice, if that's the case, or build on where you are, because every one of us is on a journey. So some of us may not even be consuming some of the foods I'm going to talk about later on today, but you need to start where you're at, and you want to kind of build on foods. You want to become a bit more you need to be a bit more sort of brave and be a bit more exploratory in what you do, if that's a word. I don't know if that's a word, but you want to kind of really do something unique if you've never done it before, because you want to start experimenting with yourself with different foods during these seasons, as you see them come into season, because that's kind of what you want to be using from a medicinal perspective when it comes to food. Okay, so this is there for information. As I say, if you're worried or concerned about anything, if you're finding something is getting worse, or you've got a symptom that just doesn't disappear, your GP will always be your first port of call. Please do seek medical advice for yourself or for someone you're in charge of or you take care of. This is just always fundamental to good health. Okay, so with temperatures dropping then, and fewer sunlight hours as the autumn starts to kind of develop into winter, there can be a significant impact on our well-being. So how many of you have heard of SAD? So SAD. So that stands for seasonal affective disorder. So according to the NHS UK website, this is described as a type of depression that comes and goes in a seasonal pattern, also sometimes known as winter depression, because the symptoms are usually more apparent and more severe during the winter. So some of you are going to relate to this. I know I definitely do. I start to feel the lull when it's a darker or a gloomier day, or when it's kind of raining non-stop and I'm not able to get out for my daily walk, or I'm not able to kind of do something that I would normally do outdoors. Those kinds of things really affect me as a person, individually. So this is actually a very common finding at this time of the year in countries like the UK, that are more sort of temperate. And, it's something that really does need to be addressed, whether that be from a medicinal perspective, whether that be from a holistic perspective. Like as I've always said before, we need to kind of look at all the different areas of health and combine them and get the best of each part, because we are very complex beings. We don't always get the best just going for one modality. We need to take a combination of things so that we can get the best of each one. So, if you find that you do suffer from SAD, and you find that it's something that you can't sort of manage on your own, again, seek out and get that help and support that is available. There's just so much out there now that there's no need for anyone to be suffering. And if you know someone who is, and also is going through the same, then encourage them to do the same thing, because no one should be suffering. There's so much you can do, and it's about putting measures into place to deal with those kinds of imbalances before they come. That's ideal. But obviously, if you're there, it doesn't mean you can't do anything about it. It just means that you need to kind of educate yourself and those who are around you, who are affected by you, so that you're able to deal with that more effectively. So with the sunlight hours declining, where we've got less sunlight exposure, we're less likely to be making our own vitamin D through that contact, through skin. So vitamin D, I have talked about previously, and it's more than just a vitamin. We know it to be an immune modulator, so it has a huge effect on the immune system. And this is something that really needs to be taken seriously, particularly at this time of the year when, we're seeing, less and less kind of sunlight, even on cloudier days, it's not as well produced. So, it's something that is absolutely essential. And it's something I do in my clinic. At the very beginning, I will always check my clients' vitamin D. It's easily done through a blood test. You can have this done through your GP or through a very simple private blood test. And what we need to try and do is optimize that level of vitamin D for your individual situation. So this is very easily done. I was very low in vitamin D when I started learning about nutrition, and I was able to correct mine very easily. So it's very simple to do, but it's something that you must do. And if you haven't done it already, it's something that you can put on your list to do before the winter sets in. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you're going to start to reap the benefits of getting this level of this essential nutrient up to a level that's going to actually support you. Okay, so you don't want to be compromising your immune system by having low vitamin D levels, for example. You want to be supporting your immune system, so get the vitamin D checked and optimized. Coughs and colds are very common, so all these respiratory illnesses, and it makes us feel really miserable and just wanting to curl up in bed because we're tired and achy, and you just don't want to do anything. Your mood is not in the right place. So all of these things are going to be common as we move from the autumn into winter. So you can see that we have to do what we can to prepare our bodies to give us the best that they can, to be able to do all the tasks that we've got planned over the autumn and winter months, and hopefully looking forward to the spring as the seasons change. So how do we deal with these things and all the other things that we haven't really talked about today? So diet and lifestyle are going to be imperative. Lifestyle is a big topic in and of itself, so I'm not going to really touch on that today, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the foods that could help support your body, and then maybe ways that you can sort of think about incorporating the foods. And then I'm going to try and finish up with a recipe or two just to kind of give you some ideas about where you can begin, because it's always very frightening to start, but actually once you get into it, it's actually quite exciting and interesting. And you can always chop and change things to the way you want them to be, so you don't always have to use a particular version of an ingredient. You might want to use whatever you've got at home. Sometimes you can omit things quite safely, and when I don't have a particular ingredient, I will look for a recipe, and then I'll put minus so and so, and oftentimes these recipes will come up. So it's so easy now for you to actually find recipes. The simple ones are there, the complicated ones are there. So depending on your ability level, how much time you want to spend in the kitchen, there's something for everyone. So we're not really in a position to make excuses. So what can we do then in terms of the diet? So before I get into the details about the diet, I want to actually talk about seasonal eating very briefly. And again, I think I've talked about this before, but I think it's really important to just go over it again and to take note of what kind of benefits that we can derive by encouraging ourselves and our families, our loved ones, our communities to eat seasonally. Um, so there are a number of advantages we can look into, but I've selected a few just to kind of get you thinking about why this is, it's such a good thing to do at this time of the year and other seasons, with their specifics. So first of all, it's less costly. Why is this? Because there are far less transportational costs involved. So the food is being grown local, seasonally, so it's going to be in abundance. It doesn't have to come from some tropical island on the other side of the world, so it makes sense that the transportational costs are going to be far less if you're getting your food from a couple of hours away as opposed to 2 or 3 days away, depending on how it's got to you. It makes so much sense that the food that's only a couple of hours away is going to cost you far less than the food that had to come, to you after traveling for a couple of days, to get over to you. So that's a really, a key one. And then as a result of this, the food tends to be more nutritious. We get it sooner. The journey from farm to fork is far shorter, and then that nutritional decline that begins once the fruit or the vegetable or whatever it may be is picked is far less. So that means that we are exposing our body to more nutrient dense food. It's got more of it before it's gone. So we're getting more of it, which is what we need, because how many of us are actually deplete in nutrients? Even if we're eating organically, we're not getting the nutrients that we need because of all the different factors that are involved, including transportation, including cooking methods, including storage methods, including um, you know um, that decline that happens because of that delay in getting the food to you as quickly as possible after it's harvested. So all of these things actually matter. It's going to matter. It's going to make a difference to what we're actually doing. Remember, the more nutrients we're getting in our body, the better we should be in terms of how we perform. So this is what we want to try and make sure that we're doing all the time. The food actually also tastes better as well, so it's fresher. It might be ripe naturally as opposed to being ripened unnaturally. It's growing in the way it should be, and it's coming to you the way it should have come to you. So um, it's not this kind of artificial setup where you're having to import foods, or you're having to, make food kind of preserve it to get to someone, etc., etc. I'm not saying that those are not good things. They are actually huge, huge blessings of different sorts. I mean, some places, where there is no food, food is preserved, food is transported, and it's life saving. So I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form, please don't get me wrong, that these are not good options. They are amazing in and of themselves. But where you've got the choice and where you've got the ability to choose, I think you need to kind of look at these factors. You can, you know, increase that health of yours to a better level, given the choice, rather than just going for something that's easy and convenient to do. That's what I'm trying to say. So, it's fresh, it's tastier, it's grown in season, it's abundant in so much more sort of quantity. So, everyone can have a chance to kind of dip in and benefit and take advantage of seasonally grown fruit and veg and other produce. It's full of flavor, and you can try this for yourself, see what you think. When I'm going to list some of the foods for you to kind of look into, but if you just did the research for yourself, try those foods that are grown seasonally. If you've got a farm that's local to you, if you've got sort of farmers markets maybe that perhaps are set up near to where you live, whatever it may be, those sorts of little communities that are set up to provide food in this way. I mean, I know some friends we've had in the past have had allotments where they've grown produce, and we've had several types of vegetables from those allotments, and they've tasted amazing. They don't taste the same as other produce that we've purchased. So there is a difference in taste, and you can try that for yourself and see how you feel. So for those of you who are seasoned, excuse the pun, seasonal eaters, how do you feel changing up your foods in this way? Some of you may already be doing this. And this is not a cultural thing. This is something that's quite general. If you look around the world, people in their communities do this. It's not just something that, is it's probably shocking to us in the UK because of that availability of fruit and veg and produce all year round, where we don't really have to think about where our fruit and veg came from. All we do is pop into our local supermarket and there it is, the item that we're looking for, and we know nothing different to that. But it's something that we need to start to appreciate, and I think seasonal eating, going to these farms and going to these allotments and taking part in these initiatives will help us to appreciate what locally grown food means, and the work that goes into actually producing these food items. It's a lot of hard work, and you know there's so much good to be actually achieved from utilizing these foods, purchasing from these local farms, etc., because we support their businesses. Smaller businesses are struggling, and why not support your local farm by actually visiting and then purchasing from them, and get your family and friends on board as well. And sometimes you can buy in bulk and you can split that between families and friends, so you all get a variety. So these are all ways and means that you can actually support this kind of seasonal eating, and make it part and parcel of your health improvement as well. So, this is nothing short of normal in countries abroad, in local communities, in villages, in, sort of less perhaps developed areas as well. So, I'm sure, whatever your cultural background is, you may know someone or a family member or a friend or whoever you keep in touch with, maybe, who actually, this is actually normal for them. It's not something that is like, oh, wow, this is bringing a difficulty upon us because we've always been used to eating a certain way. So these are things that people can get involved with. It's not something that is there to create difficulty, as I mentioned. It's there to build connections. It's there to support local businesses. It's there to support our health as well. So it's got a multitude of benefits. It's not a case of just kind of the one person benefiting. And remember, the more you kind of start to look into what's going to benefit you at the different times of year, so seasonally, whatever it is that you're going by at the time. I mean, seasons is a good way because it makes it quite easy. You can really start to improve on your vitamin levels, your mineral levels, your antioxidants. You can vary your diet because variety is absolutely key. Variety is what's going to give your body the range of nutrients, whether they're phytonutrients, whether they're antioxidants, whether they're vitamins, minerals, fibers, whatever it may be. It's going to give you that variety that you need. And, achieving, the variety and the number that we need to achieve. I mean, if you actually study some of the naturopathic resources, 40 to 50 different phytonutrient types, or different types of veg, herbs, spices, these kinds of nutritious food groups. Getting that into your diet on a weekly basis is not easy, especially if you've never consumed fruit and veg, on a regular basis in your life. So these are things that we really need to start building on. And I'm going to provide you with some ideas after the break about how you can look into this and how you can mix and match things and the kinds of food groups you could be considering in the autumn season, just to get you started. And it's such a easy thing for us to do now. We're all online all the time. Why can't we spend just say 5 minutes of that time looking up healthy recipes in the autumn, and then you can even put examples of new food groups in there. Why can't we do that? Why can't we make that something that we invest in for our health and our well-being? It's so easy. And you can put in easy, you can put in simple. I would always put healthy because that does help. And and make it something that you can do maybe even once every couple of days, once a week. And then when you've tried that recipe, stick it on your notice board, on your in your food diary, whatever you use, as your weekly planner for your food, especially when you've got a family or you're looking after others, where it can get a bit more stressful. And then start to utilize those recipes and cycle them, and then change things up. Maybe if you've done I don't know, you've used one particular food, try a different one with the same base, to kind of make that particular that particular food that you've found. You can really get creative with it, and I think that's the main thing: getting creative, not seeing it as a burden. How I used to see foods and the kitchen, I used to see them as a burden. I was always very afraid of the kitchen until I started realizing actually it's more of an art than a science. I'm not saying don't pay attention to the amounts and to the quantities and to the timings and the heat settings on your oven. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be so specific, so calculated. You can vary things, to some extent, and still come up with something palatable. So don't be afraid. Give yourself a chance. So that's like a bit about seasonal eating and why it's important. There's a lot more to it. I would always say read about it, learn about it, educate others about it, because this is what we're here to do, to share and learn and share and grow as not only as individuals but as a community, as and as a whole body, because that's the idea of benefit. You spread it far and wide. Please stay tuned, as I will be diving into more after this short break. So you're listening to me, Shazia, on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. Back with you shortly. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Nutrition Show. You're joining me, Shazia, on Unity FM 93.5 FM. So before the break, I was talking about seasonal eating and foods pertaining to the autumn season in particular, and how they can be supportive of our health when we kind of tune in with our bodies. So, we're feeling a little bit different. We don't feel the same as perhaps we did in the summer, despite our little heat wave, as I mentioned. But, we're starting to feel that kind of, I don't want to call it a decline, but we're starting to feel that kind of change in the way our energies are, our mood, our kind of well-being, our connection even. These things have wide-reaching consequences. So I want to sort of take some time now to talk about the types of foods that we can be considering, maybe some combinations that you can use in your recipes, and then maybe even finish up with a recipe or something similar that you can, perhaps look up online in more detail if you fancy trying it out. But it's something that's quite commonly sort of utilized at this time of the year. Obviously, if it's not for you because you're not inclined to that particular food group or nutrient, there are so many others that you can try. So you're not at any loss in any way. So just a reminder then, our discussion is for information purposes only and does not in any way constitute medical advice. For any health issues or concerns you may have, please do check in with your own medical practitioner. Okay, so autumn then is it's quite a nice time of year. I mean, the colors are amazing, and we see the colors changing, in the foliage, in the leaves, the plants, the beautiful shades of oranges, reds, browns. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful time of year, isn't it? Despite all the dried leaves on the floor, so you might have a lot more cleaning to do if you've got any trees local to you. And it kind of signifies change, not just in the environment, but within our bodies as well. And we will probably find that we crave more in terms of perhaps foods that are not so nutritious. And in general, we find that we need more calories, so we want to eat more. So this could be troublesome if you don't manage your cravings so well. But if you know how to manage them and you get clever about it, you can actually really serve your body by making it sort of resilient to the best of your ability. Obviously, we're all different and our bodies respond differently. In terms of the kind of the different environments, the different changes, the different sort of consequences that we may face going forward as the seasons change. So it's important then to recognize the types of foods that could be useful for us in terms of what's in season. So in autumn, locally, so in the UK for us, obviously, if you're listening in from a different country or a continent, please do check in and online or with a local service to find out what's local to you and in season. So that may vary depending on where you are. And then you want to sort of start to utilize these foods in your day-to-day cooking as much as you can, obviously, to support your body receive that adequate nutrition. Make it optimal. You don't want to just be adequate. You want to make it optimal so you get through the seasons in a more sort of in a more robust way, in a more sort of productive way. You don't want to be sick throughout the whole of the autumn and the winter, do you? You don't want to be in bed. You don't want to be sort of suffering from this low mood unnecessarily. You want to be living your best, whatever the season may be. So, and we want to kind of be making changes in the healthiest way possible. So, having your sort of odd day where you eat the things that, aren't so nutritionally beneficial, shall we say, to your body, that's okay. We all have our days where we need that. There's nothing wrong with that. We are human after all. But it's that focusing on the majority of the time, the kind of the what we're doing on a regular basis. That's what is actually the main thing here. So, what kinds of foods can we look for, and what can we kind of start utilizing in our day-to-day recipes, in our day-to-day nutrition? Well, some of these are very sort of readily available, and you'll probably see them all the time. You may even have them in your kitchen right now. So think about fruits such as apples, plums, and pears. Okay, so just as a side note, where you can, some of these fruits, vegetables, produce is best consumed organic. And there's a list online, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, which kind of helps you to get closer to eating more organically where it's preferred to. However, there is some produce that you may consume conventionally grown because there isn't so much of an issue with the pesticides, etc., that are used on these types of produce. So this is a side note. Obviously, if it's something that's going to cause a lot of concern and worry for you because you're not quite there yet, that's okay. This is something to build to, and it's something that a lot of us as nutritional therapists will talk about when we get to clients who are kind of at that higher level of achieving better nutrition. And for some people, they may want to do that because they're trying to manage an underlying issue or concern that is actually aggravated by these sorts of issues. So everyone's at a different place. No, I'm not here to judge. I don't judge my clients when they tell me they can't eat organically. I can't eat organically sometimes. It's just the way it is. But that's an ideal to work towards. It just means that we try to reduce the toxin exposure to our bodies as much as we can. But I'm just kind of throwing it in there just in case you're at that level where you're like, okay, I can do this, so therefore I can source my produce organically grown. Or, so you get these local farms where pesticides are not used as much. Even that is an amazing opportunity where you can't buy organically as such, because organic certification is actually quite expensive in and of itself. And not everyone can source organic anyway, so not all supermarkets will stock it, although I know our local supermarkets have a small range of organic produce. So work where you're at and build. So as I mentioned, apples, pears and plums, blackberries and elderberries, they're really nice at this time of year. Lettuce, rocket, watercress, and then you've got the marrow, squash and pumpkin. So you're going to start seeing these in the supermarkets quite often. I think they're already in those beautiful colors that are now appearing. Mushrooms, potatoes, and sweet corn. So you can see straight away just from that list that I've given you, they're not foods that are difficult to find. Um, Elderberries might be difficult to find. I don't know. I've not seen elderberries in where I normally shop, but apart from those are kind of like everyday foods. So at this time of year they're seasonal. That means that they're readily available in abundance. They're going to be more nutritious. You want to source them locally. You want to be able to get the nutrition from them. You want to get the flavors. You want to really enjoy that produce more, because this is their time. This is their kind of time to shine, if you like. So you want to be looking for those foods seasonally. What kind of nutrients can you get from these foods? So these are a few examples. So you know, I don't want to go into the kind of the detail of each vitamin in each one, but you can start to pick up that you can get lots of um, nutrients from these foods that are going to help support your body systems that need that support more, perhaps this time of year. So what I mean by this is like your immune system, for example. It's going to be bombarded with all these colds and flu bugs at this time of year, so you want to really get it into a good place. Okay, so these foods are going to be readily accessible, relatively inexpensive. Okay, so you're not having to break the bank to get some of these foods. They're actually quite affordable. So thinking about root vegetables, beetroot is an amazing one. Oh my goodness, the benefits of beetroot are so many. Sweet potato, carrots, these kinds of foods are going to provide you with one or more of minerals, fibers, antioxidants, vitamins. Think about vitamin A from that beautiful orange coloration. Think about vitamin C. Vitamin C again to support both of these. I'm going to support immune health. Really brilliant options here for lovely soups and stews. And how easy are they to make? I do them in my pressure cooker, and then I whiz them up in my smoothie maker at the end. If you've got a soup maker, you've got a slow cooker, go ahead, start using these now, because this is what you're going to need for your body to give it the nutrients it actually needs. Apples. So apples, I don't think there's a day that goes by in our home where we don't have an apple, whether that's in a salad, whether that's in used utilized in a different way. It's a staple for us, and it actually does a huge load of benefit for us. Lots of vitamins and fiber from the skin. So again, this is where organic will be preferable, because you don't want to be taking that skin off. I know when I was a child and I went abroad, I saw people peeling the skins of apples off, and I never knew why they did that. But actually, I've come to realize that actually the skin is very nutritious. You don't want to be getting rid of the skin. You want to be consuming the apple in its entirety. Okay, so pumpkin you'll see everywhere this time of year. Great color and nutrition. These provide beta carotene, which is the precursor, or the kind of molecule that is then converted into vitamin A. Vitamin A we know is good for our vision. It's absolutely essential in supporting the immune system. So many systems are dependent on vitamin A. Try and get as many of these kind of pumpkin squash type foods in. Vary them. Look for the different colors that you see. There's different tastes and textures. You can look at how you can mix and match them and combine them. And you want to sort of start utilizing these now whilst they're in season. Mushrooms of all sorts, but really beneficial on the immune system as well. So this is down to the beta glucans that they contain. Very flavorful. I personally have always found mushrooms quite difficult to consume. So how I do it is I put them into my soup. So I'll put them into a soup, so I can't, I don't get the texture. However, I've also used organic mushroom powders in the past, and I've put them into a smoothie. Again, it's a brilliant way to consume them if you're not so keen on them. However, I've also put them into stir fries and on a pizza, because you can disguise the flavor with other things, and I'll chop them up really small so that they kind of disappear into the background for me personally. But if you like mushrooms, go for them. They're in season now. They're going to really benefit your body. Okay, so additionally, foods that some might find a little bit harder to consume, I do find that with, I find that personally, as well as, in clinics as well. The rich in vitamins, though, vitamins K and C are the cruciferous vegetables. So what are these? So think about cauliflower, cabbage, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. These are all foods very rich in vitamin K and vitamin C, as well as others. Great in supporting the immune system. Again, you want to try and get these in. Start with one. If you find this range of vegetables difficult to consume, start with one and build slowly. Go for variety. There are so many nice recipes out there. I mean, we tend to just get organic broccoli, use the heads, just steam them very lightly with a bit of salt, and then they can be used as a side with your steamed fish, or steamed chicken, whatever protein source that you've chosen, alongside your salad. Really nice just to consume alongside um, other foods that you want to kind of boost the nutritional intake with. And then you can do kale chips. Add rocket to your salad, put some apple cider vinegar on there if you do consume it. I know some people don't. You might want to add a lemon dressing if you don't want to do that. Cabbage is great, as a soup even. As some I know some people will just kind of like really cook it down until they can get the nutrients out of it. Cauliflower is great if you bake it. So you can chop it up and bake it. Put some herbs and spices of your own choice, and bake that with a bit of olive oil. Really nice way to. I mean, I've actually done mine in the air fryer. So I've chopped it up really small, seasoned it, and I've put it into the air fryer, and I got some really nice crispy cauliflower pieces out of there. So I just added that to my meal. Change things up if you like a particular kind of texture or a particular method of cooking. That can work well. Make sure that more often than not you're using the more healthier versions or methods of cooking rather. So steaming is a great one. If you can if you can as pressure cook foods, that's a really good way as well. You want to avoid things like frying. Frying is the problematic way to cook and prepare foods, because you're not really giving that food the opportunity to serve you well in terms of its nutrient quality. And also then you tend to use oils, etc., that aren't the best in terms of their quality or in terms of their nutritional value when you come to frying, particularly when it's deep frying. Okay, so think about also nuts and seeds if you can tolerate them. Obviously, if you're allergic, then you leave these out. When I'm talking about nuts, you can do almonds and walnuts, and seeds such as pumpkin seeds. All great options at this time of year. Use them for snacking if you do snack. Add them to your meals. Use them as toppings for your healthy desserts. Add them in your baking. So many ways to consume nuts and seeds. It's just endless. I mean, I put them into my date balls, and we get through loads and loads. And obviously you want to stick to you want to stick to an amount that's suitable for you, so you don't want to be going overboard with them if you are able to consume them. But remember, you're going to be getting a great source of healthy fats, protein, as well as other nutrients, including and not limited to zinc, iron, calcium, vitamin E, magnesium. So many things there that you can actually just get from consuming foods of this nature. So all this information that I'm sharing today is there for information purposes only. So it's there to get you thinking, there to get you interested, there to get you looking into what could work for you. It's not about me providing medical advice, which is what I don't do in any shape or form. My role is very supportive, it's very educational. I do talk in detail with my clients when I work with them in clinic, because I'm able to, because I know them better, and I'm able to give them more specific and more tailored advice. But this is just there for you to have a look into things for yourself. Obviously, if you have any concerns, if you're worried about anything, you want to try something new, work with your medical provider, work with a nutritionist so that they can help and support you. But there's so much general information out there that to get you started, that there's so much you can actually start to do for yourself. So these foods are amazing, and sometimes it's about finding a combination. What can you do when you've got all these foods and you're looking for ways to combine them? So, like I said, you can go online and just put in what you're looking to make. What is the kind of core of your recipe, like pumpkin, for example, and put in healthy pumpkin recipes. You can put easy in there as well. Don't make it hard for yourself. Look for something simple. and start searching online. There's just so much out there that I couldn't even justify talking about websites, etc., because there's just so much out there. And what might work for you might not work for someone else. So you might want to kind of look at the ingredients that they're using, look at the methods that they're using, look at the time frame. Are you able to incorporate that into your daily routine? You know, balancing out all your other roles and responsibilities. You want to kind of start doing that, and you want to start combining these things with other ingredients. So we've talked about the healthy plate before. Remember, half of your plate is essentially your salads and your fruit and your veg. That's what you want to try and get in there. And you want to always go veg heavy, because that's kind of where we're going to get the nutrients that we need for our body. So we're talking about vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, fibers, etc. We need this for our body day in, day out. So we've talked about the root veg already. Combine these with whole grains. What can you use? You can use oats if you're tolerant to them. Obviously, you have the gluten-free version as well now. Millet. You can consider buckwheat. You can consider, a variety of rice. There's different types there. Black rice. There's red rice. You can even look at brown rice if that's something that you like. Brown rice is very nutty in texture, so it doesn't soften the way as like white rice does. And I don't tend to recommend regular white rice anyway, because it's not the most nutritious option out there. But if you have it once in a while, it's okay. And remember to combine with healthy fats and protein. So we've talked about green veg, we've talked about the cruciferous vegetables, we've talked about the salad type ingredients that you can also incorporate. Think about the legumes, beans, soybeans, lentils, chickpeas, lima beans. And there's so many different types of things that you can mix and match, and you can add these into your soups. You can add them in. You can add some chicken in there. You can add some tofu in there. You can add some, whatever it is to kind of to actually make that more sort of nutritious. You can do that, providing that it's something that you enjoy eating. You can do that. Think about fruits. We want to talk about apples, plums, and pears. Think about citrus, amazingly rich in vitamin C. In particular, I like berries when it comes to vitamin C, because they're low GI, so they don't spike your blood sugars as much. And you've got some of them that are in season right now. And I find that they're a really good addition to anything that I make, whether that be a smoothie, whether that be a dessert, whether that be a snack. I find that they're really good additions. Fish is great if you consume fish. Focus on your oily fish. So that's your sardines, your mackerel, your herring, your salmon. Focus on those, and then obviously have the white fish like your haddock and your cod as well. You want to go for a variety of fish, and again, you use this alongside your other options. And when you're looking for meal ideas, you're going to have a combination that's kind of prepared, in that recipe. So you can chop and change those to what suits you and your family. And then, those magic ingredients that you can add to increase the nutritional content and health benefits are your herbs and your spices. So think ginger, turmeric, think rosemary, think thyme, basil. You can do coriander, you can do mint. So many different herbs and spices that are out there that, it's just mind blowing. Again, flavorful. They're giving you the additional nutrition, and making things a bit more exciting. Sometimes food can get a little bit boring, so make your food exciting, because exciting means that you're going to continue to it's kind of explore and improve your health and well-being through trying new ideas. So what kind of recipe ideas are there? So, a no-brainer for me, and I mean, I do it because I struggle, are soups. I love my soups, and I will throw in lots of different things because I know I'm not going to eat them otherwise, or I'm not going to have time to prepare them, or I'm going to just get, into excuse mode. So it's a really good way to get lots and lots of vegetables into your diet. And it's easy because like I said, I use my pressure cooker, and then I smoothie whatever, comes out on the end. Obviously, if you've got a soup maker, use that. If you've got something more technical than that, then go for that. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. Just keep it simple. The good old hob, if you need to. I mean, I like to save time and money on my bills, so I do it that way. So try and look for ways and means that are easy for you and get as much in as you can. So, at this time of year, we talked a lot about the squashes, so pumpkins, things like that. So if you've got a nice butternut squash, a very common example of a recipe that you might see online now is a roasted butternut squash soup. So basically, all you're doing with this is, and I would say go online and get yourself a proper recipe. Don't go by what I'm saying now because I'm just giving you an idea, I'm giving you an example of what you can do and how limited the steps are. Really, it's not very difficult at all. It's not like making something really complicated at all. It's just to give you an insight as to how easy these recipes actually are. So basically, all you're doing is you're peeling your butternut, you're taking the seeds out, you're cubing it, and then what you're going to do with that is basically drizzle it with some oils and then season with salt and pepper and put this in the oven to roast. Okay, so you want to get it to a nice soft texture, um, not sort of melting texture, but what's that it's tender. And then in your pot, you want to get that kind of base going. So you want to sort of um, chop an onion, saute it, make it nice and soft, adding in some garlic, some ginger, in some oil until they're nice and soft. And then what you want to do then is once the butternut is ready and it's nice and tender, you want to add that into your pan. So you want to mix that in with the sauteed onion, and then you can season that. So you can add in whatever sort of spices you want to add. They can vary, and add in your vegetable broth or your stock cube, whatever you want to use, and then you want to bring that to the boil, let it simmer until it softens completely, and then you can, once it's cool, add it to a blender and smoothie it to a soup. Now that's ready to serve, and you can actually serve that in a bowl, and you can garnish maybe with some another spice of your choice. So some people may use cinnamon. You may want to use a little bit of olive oil. You may want to use a little bit of cream. Whatever it is that you like, you can actually then use. So it's very easy to prepare. The very limited sort of equipment needed, time is not so much because you're baking and then you're just mixing. There's so many things that you can actually try and do, and that's just one example. So you can, that's kind of just picking up on a couple of vegetables. You can go for more in-depth and more hearty soups if you want to. Again, go online, look for recipes that will encourage you to kind of utilize more. But that could be one that you can use just to kind of use a seasonal vegetables, that you're getting that into your diet because that's what's there at this time of year in autumn. It's there for you. It's there to serve your body. Nature's helping us, so we've got to help ourselves by taking advantage of what nature is doing. So it's a two-way process. We can't just expect everything done for us. It's there for us. We take it and then we utilize it. And as I say, as we kind of research other things online, we can do the same for our recipes. So I'm not going to go into more. You can start thinking about things like apple crumbles, and there are healthy versions of that. I actually did a rhubarb crumble actually just the other day for my mum because we got sent some organic rhubarb, which I didn't want to go to waste. And although that's not a vegetable I've talked about today. But in the same way, you can utilize what you might find at a local market that you wouldn't normally use. Again, focus on what's seasonal, but if you do find something that's nutritious, why not try it? Why not give it a go? And actually, it came out really well. It was very healthy, the recipe. I purposely seek out recipes that are healthier in the way they're kind of designed. And, they are just so simple now to find. Anyone can find them now. So, get in the kitchen, get, learning, educate your family, get your kids on board, look at their ability. Are they able to help with something? Make sure it's safe, make sure it's, there's no kind of danger to your family, but, get them on board because you want to set examples for them when they're older and when they have families of their own so that they can carry that, those good habits across. So I hope that what you've heard today has been insightful and gets you looking into what could work for you while seeking support from your own healthcare provider. I know there was a lot there. There's so much information out online. So if you want to look into more about what I've said, then please do your own research and look into what could work for you. Remember, everyone's different. So, you may not like pumpkin, but somebody else may do. So, substitute for those ingredients that you don't like and vary things to what could work for your body. At the end of the day, we don't know what we're not going to like until we've tried it. So I think everything should be tried, providing it's permissible to try, you know. Um, and you can always then say, I tried it and it didn't work so well for me. And remember, all of these foods have nutrients in them that are going to benefit us. We want that variety. We want to try and get them in for the sake sometimes of getting that nutrition in. And I do that with some of my foods. I don't like particular foods, but I will still have them because I know that they are going to serve my body well. So, I would encourage you to do the same. Maybe not now if you're at the early stages of your journey, maybe later on. But it's a really good way um, to focus on your body improving itself and getting to a better place. So I would love to hear your thoughts, and all feedback is always greatly appreciated. Give us a call, let us know what you thought of the show. If you've got ideas for future shows, I'd love to hear. Sometimes I'm sitting there racking my head thinking, what should I talk about this week? It really does help. I'm looking to have people on the show, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Again, if there are topics that are, useful to you, that you want to know about from a nutritional perspective, from a health perspective generally, then I'm happy to look into that as well. So, the show is going to be beneficial if you feedback and let us know what you want to hear, because nutrition is just a minefield. You can really get lost in there, and sometimes it's easy to go off track and talk about topics that may not be so useful to the audience. So my kind of hope is to bring topics to you that are going to benefit you. And I try a lot of things on myself first before I recommend them, and I think that's kind of key for me, because I can then talk from experience. But ultimately, this is for your benefit, for those of you who are listening, who may listen to the repeat later on. I really want you to be benefiting from the time that I spend trying to get this across to you, because that's the reason why I'm doing it. So please do take some time out to connect with me, to feedback, to let me know what would benefit you. So grateful for another opportunity to connect with you. This is Shazia on the Nutrition Show on Unity FM 93.5 FM. I look forward to joining you again soon. Take care until next time. Wassalamu alaikum.